What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, Boogie2988, coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And I just got back from watching Black Panther, and I wanted to make an entirely spoiler-free video talking about it here because I think it's probably one of the best Marvel movies to date. And I know there's a little bit of controversy surrounding it. And I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, the stuff that I'm not supposed to talk about. And that's probably going to get me in a lot of trouble, but I don't really care. We're going to talk a little bit about diversity. We're going to talk about the all-black cast. We're going to talk about the role that this movie plays in our culture and some of the themes of the movie without really going into the details to keep it spoiler-free. But let's talk about the basics real quick. Is this a Marvel film? Yes, but it feels very different in the way that Ant-Man feels very different because it's a comedy. This movie has its jokes, but the jokes are a little better timed and a little better placed than your average Marvel film. This has a very different pacing than most Marvel films, and it feels, to me, very James Bond-esque, or maybe like a Batman film. I think in this film, Black Panther very much is an analog to your average gadgeteer. Which is absolutely fantastic because there's not, I mean, obviously you have Iron Man as a gadgeteer, but he does something very different from what they do in this Black Panther universe. The cinematography is amazing. The CGI is incredible. The fighting scenes are incredible. The acting is incredible. The storyline itself is very, very good. So as far as movies go, it's very good, but it's very different from your average Marvel film. It doesn't feel like, I really feel like they kind of broke the formula here. And I like it when superhero films break the formula. I liked Ant-Man mostly because it was a comedy, not necessarily the quality of the film, though it was still pretty good. I loved The Watchmen because it was the anti-hero film. I loved that. I loved Infinity War because it was definitely something we'd never seen before. And so this is another example of something I feel like we have not seen before with all the more Marvel films. And that's the very best reason to recommend this film. And then I want to get into some of the more hot and button issues because I think it's kind of important. And first, let me tell you my background when it comes to this type of stuff. I personally enjoy diversity. Diversity is not a problem for me. I think it's fine. I doesn't really sell me on a movie, but it doesn't really bother me either. I guess if you're one of those types of people who have like some sort of racial issues or something like that, you probably are not going to enjoy this film. However, I don't have that problem, certainly. Diversity does not upset me, but when it is shoehorned in or when it's done for diversity's sake, sometimes that doesn't really please me, right? I think back to something Jerry Seinfeld said in an interview recently. He was talking about diversity for diversity's sake, and he said when it comes to his shows, like comedians and cars getting coffee, he didn't really think about whether or not this person was black or white or whether they were... all he cared about was whether or not they were funny. And I feel very strongly about that. I believe that when you write a diverse character or you cast a diverse cast member, the role that they're playing should be very, very good. So that even when the crappiest people hate that kind of thing, I can't even believe they put him in this movie. I can't believe they wrote that character. That's Sammy squeaking his toy. When they do that, they're like, well, you know what? It's still a really good movie. It was really well written. It was really good. And this is a perfect example of that. That is a perfect example of a well-written movie with a very diverse cast that approaches some very tough topics and does it in a way that is kind of boiling the frog, in my opinion. It doesn't shove it in your face. There are maybe one or two ham-fisted lines, which I might talk about in a spoiler-oriented review. But for the most part, the message is pretty there. Now, again, if you're particularly sensitive to that, if you're, I can't handle any opposing viewpoints. If I can't handle, having to think about or deal with things that are different from my exact world beliefs, you might get thrown out of this movie because of that, because there is some of it there. But I think anyone can go into this, enjoy it for the fight scenes, and enjoy it for the incredible acting and the incredible script and the incredible story, which is slightly predictable in a few places, but much better than any other Marvel film. I know very little about the Black Panther comics, and I don't think this has a lot to do with the Black Panther comics as far as I would guess. It is very, very different. Its role in the Marvel universe is actually really fascinating. They approach some of the issues that we're dealing with here in our country and worldwide, and dealing with some of the issues of race relations and nation relations and things along that lines. But then it gets way more complicated when you realize that this is not taking place in our world or our America. It's taking place instead in the Marvel universe, where the Hulk just walks down the streets of New York occasionally, and Iron Man flies around, and there's all this crazy technology, and there's all these crazy things happening, and there's actual aliens, you know, not too far away, and have shown up in New York and destroyed the place. So it is, it's wow, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. This really, I feel like, defines the Marvel Universe in a much better way. It really does speak a little bit about some of the issues that we have of race relations and things like that along that lines here in the world. I feel that it is a perfect example of when diversity and a diverse cast and a diverse storyline and these topics are handled well and correct in a way that is consumable by literally anybody but the most easily triggered snowflakes. I genuinely believe you walk into this movie and you get out of there and go, well, I just didn't plain like the message about black people being people too. Then yeah, I get it if you're that person. Otherwise, man, I can't say enough about this film. I really can't. The pacing was a little slow at a couple of points. I'll give it negative points for that. I will give it points for a couple of ham-fisted lines, but they were still pretty interesting and quotable lines, and a little bit of predictability in a couple places. But I won't spoil any of the predictability. But I think when you watch the film, you're going to see why. I do think this movie is worthy seeing opening weekend. There's nothing big to spoil for you, I'll tell you that. So not a lot of big issues here. I don't think anybody will be able to, like, you know, send you a tweet or something like that spoils the film for you. So I think you'll be able to go into it and enjoy it regardless of something like that happening. But I think that it is well worth seeing in the theater. I have an IMAX screen available, and now I wish I had seen it in IMAX, specifically because of the way they did some of the fight scenes with the CGIing. And it's not just that chop edit thing that we're so used to, where it's 27 edits per second to make it look like it's an actual fight scene, but there were scenes where they would spin the room almost Matrix style for just this shot or this cool thing. Yeah, I really think you should see this movie. If you haven't seen a Marvel movie in a while, it really breaks the mold. It really changes things up, and I love that. I love that. I love that it's different. So for that recommendation alone, I would tell you should watch it, guys. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you going to see the movie? Have you seen the movie? I will probably see it a second time. Guys, thanks for watching. I love you very much. I'll speak with you again soon.